what's up? I'm Brian here doing another video for you guys, and this time we're doing a top 10 list of my favorite Transformers Siege figures in my collection. So this doesn't count Springer, or Impactor, or Barricade, or Mirage, because I don't have certain figures. This is just what's in my own personal collection, and these are going to be my own personal thoughts, so I didn't do a poll or anything like that. I just want to clarify, and this will not count the Selects figures, this will not count the Netflix figures, this is just the pure Siege list. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the honorable mentions. Alright, so here are the figures that didn't make the cut. Brunt is the best Weaponizer, so I thought, hey, let's bring him in. I really like Sideswipe, even though he's more or less kind of a generic Autobot. I think he does a fantastic job. And just for the sake of adding Battlemasters and Micromasters, I decided to throw in Rung, and I also decided to throw in Powertrain and High Jump. I'm also going to mention Siege Jetfire. I know a lot of people are going to complain about this, but I just don't think he's a perfect figure, and I still like the original Generations thing, but I figured I might as well give him a mention. My opinion could change on this, but I'm gonna give number 10 to Siege Astrotrain. Now, technically, this is an Earthrise figure, and I'm not supposed to put in Earthrise toys, but considering that it's just a repack, it's essentially the same figure. Now, the reason why I brought this up is because it just completely surprised me. Yes, it's a little too short than what I would have preferred, considering that we have a Titans Returns toy at pretty much the same scale. I just feel like for those people that really wanted a taller Astrotrain, we could have gotten it, but we didn't. However, the aesthetic, the details, the design, and actually the weight of it is well worth the price. You get a lot for it, you get a lot of weapons. I do kind of like the boots that he's got going on. The alt modes are fantastic. The transformation is actually kind of fun. There are a few tricky moments, but other than that, I think it's a pretty good toy. Thank you to Crimson Raptors for this toy. This one goes to Siege Ratchet. I absolutely adore this toy. Now, I like the Ironhide, I even like the crosshairs, but there's something about Ratchet that I really like. Maybe it's the newly molded parts that they didn't really have to do, but they did anyways. Maybe it's the head sculpt, maybe it's the tools, maybe it's the coloring, because I didn't think it would be that good, but in hand it looks a little better. I don't know, there's just something about Siege Ratchet that I absolutely like. Of course I had to put him on the list. Thank you to Chris Vellner for sending this out to me. This is Siege Shockwave. Now, a lot of people know I am a huge fan of Shockwave, so when it came to this figure, I was super excited for it. Originally, my stores didn't really have it in stock too well. Every time there's a sale or something going on, it's just a bad time. And the fact that Chris was able to send this to me so that I made sure that I got a Shockwave, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And he is an impressive toy. Now, the reason why he's not higher up on the list is because I feel like all the accessories aren't really necessary. Now, I get why they're added, because if they don't include it, it kind of doesn't really fit into Siege because his weapon is already attached to his arm. With the Siege series, they really go out on weapons, so I feel like it's kind of necessary, but it's also kind of pointless because I'm not too sure how many people are going to combine this all together and add it to the figure, because the essential Shockwave itself is fine enough. I don't know why he's not a Voyager. He could have been, just include a small pistol or something, but otherwise, it's still a nice looking Shockwave, and I really love it. So this is definitely going to be a personal one, but it's going to Siege Hound. And I know some people are wondering, how is this better than Siege Astrotrain and Shockwave and Ratchet? Well, simply put, he's the first Siege figure that I got, and I was wildly impressed by it. I was getting really disappointed with Power of the Primes, so when this came out, and it was a little more expensive compared to the original deluxes, I was a little hesitant, but when I messed around with it, when I actually played with it, my god, it just sucked me into Siege. I really enjoyed this figure, and I can't recommend it enough. I'm glad that this one showed up because it reminded me that I need to mention that 2 of the honorable mentions actually came from 01 Transfan on YouTube, that being the Rung and the Brunt, and now Spinister was also from 01 Transfan, so I thank him for that. But my god, I really like this design. I like the mold. I like the coloring too, but I like the fact that we got a mainline release deluxe class Spinister. He's pretty tall, which is impressive, and apparently he's going to appear in the show in some form. So that's pretty wild. Spinister, this character that's been shafted for I don't know how long, is appearing in the show and it has gotten a mainline toy. That's pretty incredible. I love this mold. I love the design. It's not perfect, I will say that, but it's pretty fun. So I don't have Barricade, and out of the two others that I could pick, because I could not pick the Select Smokescreen, I decided to go with Blue Streak. Now, you're probably wondering, well, you just said that you wouldn't do Select figures in Netflix. Why is this being added? Because it's not a mainline release toy. I didn't say that exclusives couldn't be included. This is part of the 35th anniversary and was still part of the Siege line, so I'm gonna throw it in. Blue Streak is incredible to look at. I love the color scheme, which is pretty funny because it's gray and black. It's not really a vibrant color, but it's a very clean color to it. I like the red, I think that really pops. And just overall, he's got the best presence out of the three main Autobot brothers here. I really like it. The weapon choices, pretty good. And overall, it's just a good looking toy. Next up is the Voyager class Optimus wait, but Earthrise. Earthrise! What about Earthrise? Yes, I'm aware that the Earthrise figure is out, and I do hope to get it, but we're just talking about Siege toys, and I think that this Optimus Prime did a fantastic job at the start of the series. First of all, I like the Cybertronian alt mode. If you don't, well, we do have an Earth style one, but I think that it matches well with the design and translates well into the Earth style that you would later on get. I think it's pretty fun. I like the weapon choices. Even though the axe isn't really the best weapon, I still think it's fun. The transformation is kind of creative on how it's done, considering that it's the typical design for Optimus Prime, and yet they're still able to change it up. That's pretty wild. But the big reason why I decided to put him on the list is because I thought that I wouldn't care so much for it. It just looked like a generic Optimus Prime to me, and I thought, okay, well, they could have added something to it, but no, I was completely missing the point. This is a G1 style Optimus Prime with a somewhat Cybertronian alt mode. It's meant to look like this, and I think that they did a fantastic job, and when I got it in hand, it really surprised me. I've gone on so much about the Seeker mold. I absolutely love it. And no, it is not perfect. I totally understand. But the Tetrajet style is pretty fun. It's pretty clean for the most part when you're actually looking at the jet itself, obviously. But the robot modes are pretty cool. I like the fact that they pretty much tried to army build the Siege Seekers because we got the Rainmakers and whatnot. But if I had to pick just one, as much as I like Starscream, as much as I like Skywarp, Thundercracker's my guy. Why? Because Thundercracker has always been my guy. I love this figure. I think he looks fantastic. I like the blue. He just looks really good, especially when you put him next to Skywarp. I mean, with the gray chest and everything, just those two look perfect together. Now, I didn't say that I wouldn't put him on the list. I just said that I would mention him. I absolutely love Siege Jetfire. He is a wonderful, fantastic piece, and let me explain why. Yes, I like the Generations Thrilling 30 Jetfire. I still think it's a pretty good toy. However, that has not been the Jetfire I've been wanting, because previous Jetfires that we've seen have kind of tried to merge the original Jetfire from the cartoon with the toy style, or seem to do their own thing. What I just wanted is a nice, big-sized Jetfire that looks like the cartoon, and it plays fantastically. I love the siege weapons and gears and stuff like that. It's not like the Shockwave where I feel like they just added it to bring up the price. No, it just feels like something to throw in because they wanted to get that kind of original toy feel. But they still want to give you the cartoon design, so underneath all this, you got that cartoon design. I like the flare effects, I love the weapons, I love the alt mode. Yes, it's kind of wonky considering that mostly it's just the robot kind of squished down, but otherwise, it still looks fine, especially when that backpack, the nose cone, and the wings are distracting enough so you don't really notice it. It's not a perfect figure, I will say that. I don't like the hands so much, and the guns are on joints, so they kind of just tilt down. But otherwise, my god, this is probably the best Jetfire we've ever gotten from Transformers. But there is one figure that would top it. If there could only be one figure more deserving than Jetfire, it's Omega Supreme. The reason why I decided to buy this is not just for the fact that it's Omega Supreme and I've always wanted one. It's not just for the fact that he's compatible to both the Titans Returns bases and the new bases. It's the fact that this is pretty much my signature for Siege. This is basically a sentiment to Siege because I really like the toy line. I have not had a single miss with Siege, at least for me personally. Are there some figures that are better than some others? Yes, certainly. There's some figures that aren't that great. But for the majority of the toy line, I have been wildly impressed. And so I decided to go ahead and pick up Omega Supreme. This is the most I've ever paid for an official Transformer toy. And I have no regrets for it. My biggest complaints are that the ratchets in the hips and the waist is so tight that I feel like I'm gonna break it, and they are so damn loud. That is pretty much my only thing that I have to complain about it. I love the fact that it transforms into all the separate pieces. You get the rocket ship, you get the base, you even get a little Micromaster to go with it. I love the coloring, I like the design. The head sculpt is mind-blowing. I love the details going throughout it. I like the fact that you can plug so many Siege blast effects all over him. I like the hand, the claw thing. I like the rocket blaster gun. Just overall, he stands wonderfully. He is a little shorter than Fortress Maximus, yes, but honestly, I don't really have much to complain about. I like the foot tilt. I like the articulation. I think he is wildly done better than Fortress Maximus. I think that he's almost better than Trypticon. Now, Trypticon, I'm still gonna love that thing no matter what. But Omega Supreme, I think, is probably so far, out of the 3 Titans that I do have, he is the best one to come out. And I think the fact that he's in the Siege line really helped that out. So with that out of the way, that is my top 10 list. What do you guys think? Please comment below, let me know, and do your own top 10 list. What do you think of Siege? Anyways, with that said, I'll see you guys next time.